Okay. So we got to in the Haggadah, our discussion of the Haggadah. Of course, not every part, but to this famous song Dayennu. Everybody loves to sing Dayennu, Dayennu, and repeat the phrase Dayennu, etc. Right. So there are a lot of legends and story around this poem, but there's a serious problem with it in terms of the content. The text is this: Kama ma'alot tovot lamakom aleinu. How many merits and good deeds God did with us? And we say, if God would have taken us out of Egypt without punishing them, would suffice. Dayennu. If He would have punished them and not their idols, we are okay. That would be fine. If He would have punished their idols and not killed their firstborn, Dayennu. If you only did all that, meaning punishing the Egyptians, their firstborn, their idols, take us out of Egypt, and He would not give us their treasures, we would be happy. If He would have done all that and would not split the sea for us, we would be happy. So let's stop here 1 second. What do you mean? So God did all this for you, does not split the sea for you. So what do? You die, right? You're stranded in front of the sea of it because of what Torah says. They are traveling towards the sea. You showed us the video with the chariots in the Red Sea. They travel towards They travel towards the sea. Behind them, the Egyptians, and they have nowhere to run to. So what are they going to? They're going to die. So what do you mean, Dayennu? How would you be happy? It's not a complete process. You have to finish. And then they say, if He would have split the ocean for us, the sea for us, and would not let us go through the sea on dry land, we would be happy. No, we wouldn't. Right? It's not enough. It's not... if a person has an open heart surgery, and then the surgeon forgets to stitch him back, you can't say Dayennu. Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm happy. Then you have to finish what you started. That I would understand. If God would have ran us through the sea, but not make the Egyptians drown in it, we'd be happy. It's okay because they could go back home. Then the next one is that if God would have punished the Egyptians and not, and I'm not going to go into detail of how each one of them is insufficient, He would not have given us our needs in the desert for 40 years. He would not have given us the manna. He would not have given us the Shabbat. He would not have brought us to Har Sinai. He would not have given us the Torah, not bring us into Eretz Israel, not build the Beit HaMikdash for us. We would be happy. So this is a really systemic problem running through the poem, that you say many of these, we can understand how. Okay, so like I said, it's a systemic problem running through the poem, because there are many of these things that we say we would have been happy even if God wouldn't give it to us, and we say it doesn't make sense, especially when it's not just the physical benefit that we would have received, but the axis around which our whole identity revolves, which is Matan Torah. What do you mean? If God would have brought us to Har Sinai and stopped short of giving us the Torah, we would be happy. Then we wouldn't be Am Yisrael. We wouldn't be celebrating the Haggadah. The whole thing doesn't make sense. So there are many different commentaries on that. For me, what does make sense, and it's nice that we have it in the Haggadah as it is that the original source for that poem was written by Christians who rebuked Jews. We found Yirmiyahu Yuval found I think he is the author, who found the original source from the 7th or 8th century of a poem that was written by Christians in Eretz Israel who mocked the Jews. And there was a very strong conflict between the two, especially in Israel, because early Christians were centered in Israel, in Eretz Israel. Then they moved to Rome, but there was still a very strong presence. And also, as I mentioned, there was a sect of early Christians who insisted on celebrating Pesach, which they call Easter or Pascha, on the 14th of Nisan. So, and they said, we are the true Jews. You have to remember that. that I think today we're not aware of the deep conflict that used to exist between the deep divide that used to exist between Christianity and Islam. Actually, if you look honestly throughout our history, we have suffered much more. Jews have suffered much more under Christianity than they had under Islam. That even taking into account terrorism and acts of war waged in the name of Islam in the 20th and 21st century. And at a certain point, one of the early fathers of the church came up, his name was Origenes, came up with this formula. He said the problem for a Christian was that people read the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, they come together. So when you read the Old Testament, the Tanakh, all the prophecies speak about the chosen people as Am Yisrael, right? The Israelites are the chosen people. So how do you square that? If they would have rejected the Bible, say, okay, we don't read that part, fine. But once you read that, how do you square that with the idea that Christianity is the chosen religion? So he came up with this formula. He said that once the Israelites failed to accept Christianity, they lost their status as Israel. So now they became what he calls Israel in the flesh, carnal Israel. They're only physically descendants of Jews, but they're not real. They're not the real Am Yisrael. Who is the true Am Yisrael? The Christians, and they were called the Verus Israel, from the word verdad or verita, right? So they are the true Israelites. So there was really an animosity between the church and the Jews. So and many of the writings of early fathers of the church were directed at the Jews to say you're not good enough, you're ingrateful, etc. And one of them was built exactly like the Dayennu that we have today. And it was a poem that they used to read in the church, or according to some traditions, on Pesach, on their Pesach, saying, look at those ungrateful Jews. God gave them, took them out of Egypt, punished their enemies, gave them treasures, gave them food in the desert, gave them the Torah, gave them that, and they're not happy. Right? God gave you this, and you're not happy. God gave you that, you're not happy. So that was the source. As an answer to that, someone came up and said, okay, let me write a song. He says, you know what? We would have been happy. So it doesn't have to make sense. Not every phrase of the song has to make sense, but the general concept is this. The conclusion, Alahat kama v'chama tova kfula mechuperet lamakom alenu. The idea is not in the details of if he would not have done that, but rather, at the end of the day, God did all this for us. So that is what we thank God for. Finally, when we get to after the song, and there are some other songs, the piyutim that people read throughout the Seder, we get to this famous Mishnah. Rabban Gamliel היה אומר, כל שלא אמר שלושה דברים אלו בפסח, לא יצא ידי חובתו, ואלו הן פסח, מצה ומרור. Rabban Gamliel, who lived after the destruction, says, if you didn't say those three words on Pesach, you did not fulfill your obligation. Pesach, matzah, umaror. And as I said yesterday, the opposite is also true. If you said those three words on Pesach, you did fulfill your obligation. Right? It's a logical equation. If you say three words, if you didn't say those three, you could sit there for hours and you didn't do anything. But if you said those three, you're good. So the minimalist Haggadah is this: Pesach, matzah, umaror. So, but of course, this is not enough just to say the words. It's to convey the idea behind these words. And he says that Pesach, Pesach, because God protected the houses of our forefathers in Egypt. And explain again that the word Pesach in biblical Hebrew doesn't mean to skip over. This is the secondary meaning. The real meaning of Pesach in Hebrew is to protect. This is a pasuk in Yeshayahu that Hashem will protect you. Ganon vehatzel pasoach vehimri. There are four synonyms for saving. One of them is Pesach. So the promise of the Torah, when the Torah says God will see the blood on the doorposts and He will be poseach on the house, meaning He will protect your house from what? Not from Makat Bechorot. Everybody thinks that God will protect the house from the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn. God doesn't need the sign to know where Israelites or Egyptians live, right? He did all these distinctions in all the other plagues. But rather, it means that even though you, as a Jew or as an Israelite in Egypt, you are now defying the Egyptians by taking their idol and slaughtering it and roasting it and splashing its blood on the doorposts, you're provoking the Egyptians, right? You say, here, I am a proud Israelite and I follow the word of God. So you are inviting them to come and attack you. And on the night of Makat Bechorot, imagine that, we all saw, I think, the 10 Commandments. Anyone here didn't see the 10 Commandments? Right. So we all watched the movie. And that's nice, by the way. Today, there's someone, did you read the Tanakh? Did you read the Bible? No, but I watched the movie. No, I don't. Did you read the 10 Commandments? No, but I watched the movie. Sorry. So we watched the movie. Like the last night when you have this the way that depicted Makat Bechorot, right? And Yul Brynner there, and it's like it's a scary moment. What could have been the reaction of the Egyptians to Makat Bechorot, to the death of the firstborn? We always think of what eventually happened, that they came to the Israelites and say, okay, goodbye, leave us alone, just leave as fast as you. But there could be a different result. There could have been a mob attacking the Israelites. Because that happens a lot in dictatorships where Pharaoh would have told the people, look what the Israelites did to you, go punish them. They could have gone and ransacked and destroyed the Israelites especially since their houses are marked. God says, don't worry, I'll protect you. God says, I will watch over the houses and I will not let the Egyptians come into your house to attack you. So that's what we say. We eat the Korban Pesach and we remember this act of defiance, trust in Hashem, and that Hashem protected us. As I explained, that the matzah is the bread of testimony. The word lechem oni comes from the word la'anot, to testify in Hebrew, and that is with the matzah we testify. This is our witness that we were in Egypt and we are now here, because it accompanied us throughout all these generations. And with that, we renew the covenant between us and God. Maror al shum shemereru mitzrim et chayav otenu Mitzrayim, and bitter herbs to remember the bitter work that we went through in Egypt. So, interestingly enough, bitter herbs remained. We don't have the Pesach, but we have the bitter herbs, maybe because we're still not there, right? Not full redemption. So to sum it up, if this is the essence of the Haggadah, and even if you don't read all the texts, and sometimes in some situations you cannot read all the texts, depending on the guests that you have, the people there, people are tired, you have to really assess and consider the people who are around the table. But the main issues, the main concepts, the ideas that you want to convey are these: that the importance of freedom, that we started in slavery, we ended in freedom; the importance of tradition, that each year we celebrate Pesach, we reinforce the tradition that we had; the importance of family, because we're doing it in a family setting, we're all together, we connect to each other, right? And the idea that we move throughout history, that we never rest. We always think of what is the next goal? Just as we know, we started with Avraham Avinu, went down to Egypt, went up, and throughout our history we had those vicissitudes going up and down, but we constantly have this hope, and we conclude with the Leshana Ba B'Yerushalayim. I think those are the essentials and main ideas of the Seder. We'll conclude here for today. Baruch Adonai, Le'olam Amen.